I'll just get your presentation ready, Helen. We're very fortunate to have with us today, let me speak through this, Dr. Helen Thompson. Helen is the Director of the Centre for E-Commerce and Communications, located within the Office of Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Research and Innovation at Federation University of Australia. Helen has extensive experience in areas including new digital technologies, knowledge management, spatial mapping and e-research. Her doctoral research focused on reflections on effective implementations of ICT in regional and rural areas. She's involved in a range of activities where her personal and professional skills contribute to the economic, social and environmental development of regional and rural Victoria. So would you please welcome Helen? Just make sure that you just list some URLs.
Good morning. So, Richard and Mary have asked me to talk about the digital landscape a little bit, and then I suppose using the experience of Federation University Australia, previously University of Ballarat, to give you some examples of how we believe that despite all the politics around what's happening with initiatives like the National Broadband Network or broadband capabilities, no matter what form they take, there are significant opportunities for organisations in regional areas and in metro areas trying to service regional areas better to use technology. So I suppose, why is it important to a university like ours? Universities make a significant economic contribution to regions. They also create a lot of jobs. In the technology area, parallel initiatives like the establishment of the Ballarat Technology Park has probably generated as many jobs, if not more, than the university itself in our region. So we've been very fortunate that we've had a whole range of advocates who have put our region in a pretty good position with broadband technologies. So we were identified as an early rollout area for the National Broadband Network in all of its formats, with fixed wireless infrastructure going out in our surrounding local government areas, fibre in Ballarat Central, and satellite services obviously available to others beyond that. So I suppose the first message I'd say, if you're interested in the rollout of the National Broadband Network, you can certainly go to this site, nbnco.com.au, plug in your street address and find out what's going to happen. But for regional and rural areas, the picture really hasn't changed that much. The plans for the rollout of satellite, long-term satellite, and for fixed wireless connectivity are still largely as they were under the previous government. So, that high-speed broadband is coming. I suppose what our centre is focused on since it was established when dial-up was first being rolled out in 1998 in our region was what do you do with it? How do you make effective use of broadband? So, regardless of the technologies, regardless of the timeframes, I think that's where the focus really needs to be. Now, I'm not familiar with this, but I can see it there. So I suppose, again, because we've been an early rollout area for the National Broadband Network, we've had opportunities, and I think these opportunities are not unique to the early rollout areas, they're needed in all regions. So the Central Highlands Digital Enterprise Program is an example of a business skilling community, not-for-profit skilling program. It's combined workshops with mentoring. It was $1 million received by the university to work across 4 local government areas. We're just over 2 years into that project. It has big delivery targets and we'll meet those, but we've extended the term of the project by 6 months to do that. For us, we believe the workshops are beneficial, but the mentoring component, and we're just commencing formal evaluation activities outside of what we're required to do from a government funding perspective, to identify exactly how significant the benefits have been for the participants, for the small businesses, for the not-for-profit organisations. But we believe that the mentoring component, where an organisation can decide what's a priority to them, where they actually want to learn, has been most significant. And that one-on-one or small group mentoring with like-minded businesses or organisations has provided us with opportunities to extend what should be 4 hours for one organisation, sometimes to 12 or 16 hours if we can group 3 or 4 organisations together and deliver the mentoring in that way. Another area where Federation University has sort of moved into is the whole area of knowledge management, and particularly knowledge management for regional decision making, for regional advocacy, for planning, in a whole range of different areas. I suppose it builds on the significant background that we have in developing web-based technologies, and a lot of that work, as Richard would be aware, happened in the community legal centre context. So initiatives like Strong Will, Smart Justice, Disaster Legal Help, the Victorian and South Australian law handbooks are all underpinned by Federation University technologies. But what we found when we think about next generation broadband, one of the things that we think in this big data, open data, spatial presentation of data, it opens up the opportunities to bring whatever's decision useful to the region so that they can make best decisions on an individual basis or on a community basis. So I'll just take you through a few of these initiatives. And so this is just at spatial.federation.edu.au. So the first one, Visualising Victoria's Groundwater, is a project that has, I'm still getting used to this machine, is a project that has won national and has been a finalist in international innovation environmental awards. I suppose what it enables, it brings together multiple custodians, state government and others, information about the water under the ground, and it enables water authorities, consultants, farmers to get decision useful information like, if I was to drill a groundwater borehole right here, what are my prospects of success in terms of the depth to the groundwater and the quality of that groundwater? And that can be answered for any part of Victoria using existing data that was hidden from, it was in the archives of water authorities and state governments, but not in a way that individuals could access it. The natural disaster research in the Barwon Southwest region has been focused on grassroots regional planning initiatives. Post Black Saturday, post Royal Commissions, the way that regions organise their preparedness has changed, and the integrated fire management planning groups have been part of that change. What that assumes is if you get the right people from the right organisations around the table to be able to make the best plans. But in reality, there's a lot of churn in the representatives of those representatives of police and SES and CFA and so on. So what this project has done is taken a knowledge management approach to bringing together all of the information that's required in that planning context, whether it's fire incident data from the past, whether it's environmental hazards, risks that have been mapped, so that better decisions can be made when they're fused around the table. Sport and Recreation Spatial is a collaboration with Vic Health, the Australian Sports Commission, and 7 of the largest sports in Victoria, AFL, tennis, hockey and so on. And I suppose what it enables researchers at the university, but also the sports themselves to do, is to see things like health and wellbeing information, growth corridors, participation in terms of players, coaches and so on, all in a way that enables better decisions around where there might be gaps in facility access or where there might be players but low qualified coaches. And I could talk about more, but I'm just not sure how long we've got. So there are, and you can explore these yourselves, whether it's around soil health, whether it's around history. So the digitisation and georectification of old maps has got some of our history people incredibly excited about the possibilities of overlaying past information, say, for example, about Eureka Stockade, over current maps, attaching photos, getting expert comment, and so on. There's initiatives around milk production, around grains industry, around soil health, around integrated flora and fauna, so protecting species. But even initiatives like the Fed Uni Community is an interesting one to start conversations in our organisation about, we already have very good flexible work arrangement policies, but around flexibility in terms of commuting. So when National Telework Week was being ran in Australia, we said, well, what is the current travel patterns of the 1,500 odd staff that we had at that time? And actually spatially mapping their home location to their main campus location created a basis for a different sort of conversation with management, you know, in terms of looking at the profile even in between a central Ballarat campus and the Mount Helen campus. You would have thought perhaps the ones at the Mount Helen campus travelled more, but at the arts, where the Arts Academy was located in central Ballarat, those staff travelled about twice as far as the average of most other staff. So, you know, there were some things that we weren't expecting that we saw in that. So I think it is about, we often have information that's developed for a single purpose, but if you can hand that back to the region in useful ways, then it can have multiple purposes beyond its original intention. And I think the learning and understanding and insights and new opportunities are opened up because of that sort of approach. No worries.
Yes, again, is there any questions in the room? Comments?
There has been one that's come through link from Helen McGowan. She's just asking, you know, about, given the digital divide, how are decisions made regarding who gets NBN? Are you aware of the process? Could you repeat the question?
So the question was around the digital divide and how are decisions made around who gets access. So I suppose in the technologies around satellite technologies, it relies on the 2 new satellites being deployed, and they've been purchased and that deployment is planned and the details are on the NBN Co site. So that means if you're outside of an area where Telstra and other services can give you a reliable service, then you know you can connect to that. With the fixed wireless rollout, it's a matter of getting the extra tower infrastructure in place. So it's like the fibre rollout, it's a physical construction, and I think there's no doubt a few years ago the communities who showed preparedness were able to get earlier into that rollout. It's not clear how you can influence that at this stage, you know. So, and some of those reviews of how the NBN is going to be rolled out are still being finalised. So, yeah, I think with existing telecommunications providers and with you know, government-supported entities like NBN Co, it is about remaining active, continuing to advocate. But it should, you know, that those 2 technologies should cover a lot of the current gaps in regional communications. And in fact, if I was able to get fixed wireless at my partner's farm, I ended up with satellite because we had a hill or a tree or something in the way. So he was in that area. But I would be getting better speed at the farm than I do in central Ballarat at the moment. You know, so the long-term speeds on the fixed wireless and the satellite services are better than you can get, you know, in metro areas on ADSL2 at the moment. It will never be as good as fibre, but yeah, you know, I think we've got to max out what we've got.
Are you aware of any work that's been done or happening around developing principles to guide access to public information like this? And I'll just make the point that I think it's interesting that a lot of the work that you've described is happening at the local government level rather than at the state government level. Those two things might be related.
I think there's now 5 out of the 7 state jurisdictions that have explicit open data policies declared now. You know, so operationalising those is the next step. So you know the data.vic.gov gateways and the similar at the federal level in other states will become increasingly sophisticated. You know, so they at the moment. There's a range of raw data sets and, you know, their quality is variable. I think what we've done is not just open up data. I mean, we've accessed data with purpose, you know, so it often means that you have to go and negotiate access with multiple custodians. You have to work with data custodians who are at different stages of maturity with being able to share their data. It's very rare to find organisations that can share it in an interoperable way. And in fact, you know, we're working with organisations like the Bureau of Meteorology to roll out some of what they've achieved through visualising Victoria's groundwater for their national groundwater information system. And we've just signed a collaboration with CSIRO where we're working on some groundwater and some soil markup languages, you know, to make those available. I think when you can see the usefulness of the approach, that drives the opening up of data, but yeah, some of it's hard work.
And there are no national principles that underpin that?
I think that open data policies are important, you know, so at both the state and national level. I think the standards development in every domain is important because you need specialised languages like groundwater markup language, soil markup language, farm markup language, and a lot of these are still in development. You know, so yeah, sometimes we're on the bleeding edge, you know, or we're actually on the standard setting groups for some of those languages, and that's got to happen in every area for everything to talk. So it's slow, but it's really useful if you can get it. If you can get it happening.
Right, I think, Mary, that might be the end of that particular presentation. Thanks, Helen.
Thank you very much.